Welcome in. It's Michael Murray with Benzinga here at Benzinga's 2023 Fintech Deal Day at NYC. Matt Cashman, Principal of Investor Education at Options Clearing Corp. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's great to be here. It's a great crowd and a lot of energy in the room. It's awesome to be here.
It's great to hear. It's great to have you guys, Matt.
Thanks.
Kick us off by telling us about Options Clearing Corp and what exactly you guys do.
Yeah, so the Options Clearing Corporation, or OCC, is the largest centralized clearing corporation of options in the United States and actually in the world. So any option that's traded on an index or an equity in the United States at some point in time goes through the hands of OCC,
Sure.
either in clearing or in the exercise and assignment process. But really what we do is we provide the actual centralized clearing for all of those options between parties. So if you were trading on a floor and you're trading with someone, technically you're actually both trading with the OCC as the counterparty, as OCC becomes the buyer to every seller and the seller to every buyer.
Got it. So from your perspective then, as the largest options clearing in the world, what do you think is sometimes misunderstood about options? Or what are some things that you wish retail investors especially knew more about when it comes to options themselves?
Yeah, that's a really great question and something that we run into all the time, especially from where I sit. I'm the principal of investor education. That's really my job and my mandate is to make sure that people understand both the risks and the benefits of exchange-traded options.
Sure.
The thing that I think is probably one of the things that from the retail side of things that people really need to understand, and what I do on a daily basis, is we talk about how more broadly the actual optionality itself, the math behind the scenes of the contracts
Sure.
actually works. The reason why is because I think options are leveraged investments,
Right.
and they can be somewhat sticky when you get into situations where that leverage becomes something that maybe the end user either didn't intend with the original trade or doesn't necessarily understand as the actual risk profile of that trade changes over time.
Right.
Options are an interesting investment vehicle because they have an expiration date.
Sure.
If you're buying stocks or if you're buying underlying indexes, those trades, or selling them for instance, those trades never necessarily expire. They don't have a life cycle that's
Right.
naturally built into the contract, but options on the other hand do. And so the actual time perspective of that trade becomes an integral part of how the actual risk profile works over time. So I think that's really the interesting thing that I think is most applicable to the retail side of things and to what I do from an educational standpoint, is to make sure people understand that.
Absolutely. What would you say that the feel in the market has been over the last couple of years? We saw a big influx of retail investors into the market during COVID especially.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you focus on as your role, principal investor education, every day, educating people more and more about how to use options, what to know? What are the biggest things that you try to put in front of retail and investors at large every day?
Yeah, another fantastic question, and it really is at the heart of what we do, is that especially since 2020, especially since the pandemic, if you look at the actual volume numbers for the broad marketplace, especially in options, what you've seen is that since 2008, when we did roughly 4 billion contracts of cleared volume for the entire year, last year, in contrast to that, we did 10.3 billion contracts.
Yeah.
It's a massive jump, right, in the amount of actual cleared volume, but it's also a big jump in the number of people that are involved in the marketplace.
Sure.
And so from my perspective, the thing that we try to transmit to people from the informational side of things is to understand the risk that's inherent in what they're doing.
Sure.
And education is at the heart of what we do on a daily basis. It's part of especially what OIC does, right? We are the actual educational arm inside the OCC. And everything that we do is provided free of charge, on demand, on our website, right? It's a service that we provide. It's an industry resource, but it's also pointed towards the retail investor as well. And I think that it's important when people are diving into that marketplace, as the volume numbers show, right? That they really understand what I talked about earlier, which is the leverage that's inherent in those contracts.
Absolutely.
And how that risk really, changes over time, and what I think of as the opportunity that we have as far as education is concerned is to make sure people understand from a broad base of knowledge so that then they can make better informed choices when the actual options align with their investment thesis or their idea about the marketplace, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you a little bit of a predictive question maybe about next year as we close out, but when you look at 2024 as a whole, there's been plenty of ups and downs with market news and all kinds of other things this year. If you look at next year and how it's shaping up right now, what things do you think retail investors will be able to use options for to take advantage of in the next year when it comes to the markets?
One of the really interesting ideas around that is that we're seeing a lot of the actual volume more generally moving into shorter dated options. You will see that when you hear people talking about, the moniker that's generally used is zero DTE options. It's a very hot topic. It's something that is, a lot of people are talking about it. I think that is going to continue to be something where you see the actual volume continue to move into those shorter dated options. What that does from the perspective of the end user is it gives them an increased ability from an iterative standpoint, right, to be able to actually hedge discrete risk in very specific time frames that didn't used to be there necessarily. Right. And that's something that has really happened over the course of the last decade. Yeah. If people look at zero DTA options, what a lot of people tend to think of is that they just appeared last year.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is that they didn't.
Yeah.
That they, have been since 2005. They listed Fridays, then they listed Mondays and Wednesdays, then they listed Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so now we are at the end of that cycle where you now have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday expiration in some products. And I think that's going to continue to be a trend from the end user's perspective, that they're able to actually utilize those products and really leverage the actual granularity that those products provide as a hedging vehicle for risk.
Absolutely. Matt, it's great education so far. For more education, more from OCC, where should investors go to get information directly from you and the team?
No, I appreciate that. Optionseducation.org is really where we host all of our educational content on our website. We do a lot of videos and podcasts and webinars. We do 2 webinars a month also at optionseducation.org. So really go there and you can sign up and create a login, and then once you do that, you have full unfettered access to all of our educational content, and remember, it's always provided free of charge and on demand on that website.
Wonderful. Matt Cashman, Options Clearing Corp, thank you so much for being with us here at the Fintech Deal Day.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.